Hello, listener, and welcome to a special adventure review episode of 2 Weeks, One Shot, a tabletop RPG variety podcast. This is a special adventure review episode where we will take a quick look back at the one shot we just played and discuss the system we played it in before we talk about things we liked in this adventure, stuff the players missed, and what we learned about ourselves during our time at the virtual table. I'm joined today by my friends. Introduce yourselves, everyone.
Hey, I'm John, and I ran the game, so I was the keeper of arcane lore. That's what they call it in Call of Cthulhu. It's the longest title I've heard yet.
Eyyyy-oh, eyyyy-oh, oh, eyyyy-oh, 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 oh, eyyyy-oh.
I want to die.
Oh, eyyyy-oh, oh, eyy.
And that's sufficient.
Yeah, I think that's a good introduction.
Hey,
I'm Alex, and I was Leslie Torrance.
I'm Jimmy Gotanks. You remember, the best part of the show was Jimmy Gotanks. Yeah. You know, I love that character. It was great. That was the best. That was the most fun I've ever had in my entire life. Thank you, guys.
And I'm Brian Helix, and I did not do a lot of that sound. I was Ivan. I did the other sounds, the like vaguely Eastern European ones.
So our last adventure, titled Mythos Inc., was played in Call of Cthulhu 7th edition, where sanity checks and mystery solving are key to unraveling not only the case the investigators are involved in, but staving off the cosmic horror that ekes dangerously close to the edges of our reality. Let's go around the table and give some quick thoughts about the mechanics of Call of Cthulhu. John, why don't you start us off?
Call of Cthulhu isn't maybe the easiest game. It's definitely not the hardest. And there are some interesting things I like about it. But a lot of the times, I think even in the episode, I said like, hey, I just ignored this rule, or I took these two rules and I made them the same thing. Because you just streamline it for how you feel like it's going to be played easiest and most fun. So I'm sure there are things that I maybe even interpreted wrong in the episode. It's just like anything else. It has its own ideas, its own little nuances. What I really like about it is the skill check system based on the D100 instead of the D20. You know, having not good at anything being a 0 or a 1 and being great at 100. It's a kind of weird because instead of rolling to see if you're good enough to pick a lock, you're actually rolling to see if this lock that you're trying to pick happens to be within your skill level, because you're trying to roll under a number and not like a high number.
Yeah, I thought that was such a strange change for it because like it's not a game for like maximalists. Like when you're making your character and you're thinking about your skills, it's different from D&D where you're trying to picture how cool you will be shooting spells or with your swords and your mounts and stuff like that. But this one you're trying to like kind of figure out your person. Like, what do you like? What are you good at? What kind of, how do you break into a building? And it's kind of much more of a subtle kind of character building. And it's very, very fun because like you don't get the sense that you're making this superpowered thing. You're making this human. And that's a very strange, not strange, but it's a different kind of character building process to experience in a game like this.
Yeah, I think the mechanics of Call of Cthulhu are really interesting because they help to support that tone that the game is going for, where, you've got your percentile rating for skills and you build your character, semi-randomly by the base rules of the game. You're doing a lot of dice rolling and you don't know exactly where things are going to go. You have to make some sacrifices and you're only going to have so many skill points to play around with. And the game, I think, does a good job of encouraging you to put those skills sort of all over so that you have a character who has one or two things that they're good at and then, a bunch of stuff that they're only going to be okay at. And the default skill ratings, the ability to put some different skills in different places is really neat for that. And I think it helps encourage that tone of game where you're not, combat heavy adventurer types, going around kicking ass, whatever. You're investigators and that's your focus. You're trying to go around and find clues and, maybe get into fights, but that's not the aim.
I have to agree with Brian there. I think Call of Cthulhu had something really unique in terms of tone. And the fact that, this is a game that focuses on specifically mystery, cosmic horror. It relies a lot on a certain amount of player buy-in to the atmosphere of the game, as opposed to right? At least the way we've played it, Dungeons and Dragons, and even Savage Worlds, right? Where we played it kind of silly. If it was a Western or a heist, this was, right, cosmic horror combined with mystery, right? There's a certain bit of atmosphere that's built into the system as opposed to be adapted around to it, which I thought was interesting. I thought it encouraged us to, if something's supposed to be spooky, it's spooky, even though we're chuckle fucks and we kind of messed that up a little bit, but it was still, right, buying into it a little bit was still enjoyable.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't you dare pretend that we didn't still play it silly.
No. I mean, even with our silliness, there was a few spooky moments where,
There was.
Hey, why would you say that?
eyyyy-oh, hey, it was a bit spookies.
I think that is really the mechanics of Call of Cthulhu help support that, because it's a much more toned down game from like Savage Worlds where, you can take shots and, I soak, I'm fine. D&D, you've got tons of hit points. You've got AC out the wazoo. Call of Cthulhu, you've got 10, 15 hit points. That's it for the entirety of the game. And guns do, 10 or 15 hit points in a single shot. You've got to be careful. And there's serious threats around.
So Call of Cthulhu takes, as we've said, a unique approach to character creation and skill checks in comparison to D&D 5th edition and even Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. With the Investigator's Handbook, players are able to generate characters and learn skills fairly quickly and easily understand rules for combat and interaction. What did you all think about the learning process for Call of Cthulhu? So I'll start off there and say it's nice that we had John and Brian on hand as usual, because they learned the game and Harold and I really didn't.
What? The audience doesn't need to know that. They don't need to know the setup of our format here.
But once we got into it, it wasn't hard to know, right, when John had us do a check, when John made us, do any sort of interaction, right? There was a pretty low learning curve, especially with how skill checks are handled, right? You just have to hit below a certain number as opposed to every interaction or every lock or every obstacle has a shifting level of accomplishment, right? You have a level of accomplishment, and if you're able to do it, you're able to do it. If you don't, well, then that's it. It's over.
Yeah, I think the learning process for Call of Cthulhu, especially 7th edition, I assume most of the others around that are more or less the same. It's a bit weird, I would say, compared to a lot of other games, because it's one of those deals where there's sort of like that spike at the beginning where you're looking at character creation, because there's a lot in character creation for Call of Cthulhu that's very different from other games. You've got to roll for a bunch of different stats, and then you have to pick your profession, and then that determines your skill points, and there's 2 different pools and all of this stuff going on. But that's just a ton of front work. And once you get that done, then you have this very easy thing where okay, I figured out my stats. I figured out my skills. Here's what a regular success is. Here's what a hard success is. Here's what an extreme success is. And then you just have those numbers. It's not like D&D where you're constantly having a bunch of modifiers. You just have those numbers, and that's what I'm rolling. And hey, if I roll well enough, I do it. Great. And then further down the line, it can pick up again when you get into, there's spell casting and learning some of the more complex systems of the game that we didn't necessarily get into in a one shot. I know that all of that exists down the line, and then it goes up again. But I think there's a really nice sort of easy curve once you get past character creation where you can just play the game for a while and you don't really have to understand a lot to be able to function well.
Yeah, and I think you see that through how we played, and but by the end of it, I did notice wow, there was a lot of just spot hidden checks, and I think a lot of the checks seemed the same because they there's not a lot of modifiers. There's a bonus die or a penalty die, which is just advantage and disadvantage in D&D, just with just slightly tweaked to use a D100s or D10s. And I think it did make it easier for everyone to play. There are some other cool ideas that I liked, you don't level up in Call of Cthulhu, you just kind of progress your skills, and how that normally works is after after you complete just one session of a game at the end, if you had a success in a certain skill, you could have marked that off, and then you can increase that skill at the end of the session, which we didn't really get into, but it's a cool idea, and I enjoy that's well, you did this thing, which means you're better at it.
Yeah, like I said, I think this game really does sort of allow you to create a full-fledged human character, which I think would be really appealing to certain players who are not like really into like it's a different corner of fantasy where you're not going in there and making something flashy or strange, but you're trying to create something that's going to try to be real in a game that is going to hit you with stuff that's very not real. And so I found that very kind of fascinating about this game where, we spent most of this game doing mundane stuff. And so the character you create, the skills that you create are also mundane. It's how good you are at research, how good you are at driving a car. But in the end of the day, you're dealing with, cosmic horror, a god from another plane, your ancient family coming back from the dead to be upset at you for your choices. So it's a strange process when you get the sheet and you see these skills listed out and you think, oh, this seems kind of simple. And then you kind of go through the process. You kind of get into this mindset of like, it's a little strange, a little different. You're working backwards. And when you're using the skills, you do have that sort of ungrounded feeling where you're not quite sure what's going to happen, how this is going to turn out. How good am I at this really? All that stuff is kind of up in the air until it happens. And I thought that was kind of a really nice touch for this game.
So before we close out our discussion on the game system, does anyone have any last comments on Call of Cthulhu 7th edition? And we'll just jump right back over to you, Harold.
I haven't done a lot in life. I'm not a good person. I haven't saved anyone. I'm not a father. I'm, but I did create Comfies. I did bring Comfies to the world. And
I was going to ask where we were going with this.
Yeah. Comfies, he was my partner, my friend, the love of my life.
Oh.
A dog. But also Comfies is like an idea. Comfies is a feeling. Comfies is the warm sensation you have when you slip into a bed with a good friend and have, non consensual spooning.
Harold, no, that's comfy.
Oh.
That's the word you're looking for.
Oh, okay. Comfies is my gift to you. Comfies is a hope for a future. Eyyyy-oh, eyyyy-oh, eyyyy-oh.
So if you're looking to run a game, one of the comments I have, I'm sure there are stats out there for monsters, right? Like there's got to be. Did I find any? No. I found 0. There's none in the core rule book that I could find. And then when I was like, oh, well, I've been supplementing with, the Game Master, the Keeper's Guide. And I looked in there, found the monster section, and it said, all right, so like think of a cool monster idea and think about what abilities it could have. And I was like, oh, okay, so I have to make this up. So I had to create my own monster with my own like ideas for what the stats were, because I could not find a single like stat block. So just so you know, if you're looking to create something, I'm sure there's things online. I'm sure people have put it online. I didn't find anything in the core books, so I don't know.
I think that's something that is worth bearing in mind with Call of Cthulhu, is that it asks a lot from you as the players and you as the keeper of arcane lore, the game master. It asks a lot from the group to make it happen, to make it fit the tone, to make it a successful adventure. It's looking for a lot of work from the player group. And that's why maybe this will be a little contrarian, but I don't personally love the Call of Cthulhu system. I think that running Eldritch horror and things like that is a lot of fun. I absolutely adore Lovecraftian horror, and Lovecraftian elements in like almost every game I run ends up with some sort of eldritch horror, cosmic horror elements going on. But I have very rarely ever done anything with Call of Cthulhu itself, because I think it aims for a very specific sort of narrow tone of cosmic horror, and it asks a lot from the entire group to buy in. You as the keeper have to come up with a ton of stuff on your own. You have to do a million things to make it work. The players all have to be buying in and making characters that aren't going to break the game, because you can absolutely destroy Call of Cthulhu as a game if you just build characters who are built in certain ways. Like, it's very doable. There are a lot of options out there for games like this, and for using those elements. And that's what I personally end up doing most of the time. So I think it's a perfectly good game for what it is, but I would join John in issuing that warning for people thinking about doing it yourselves. Really take a moment to, read through, figure out, is this actually the game that I want to be running, or do I just want to have some Lovecraftian stuff going on?
God, Comfies was great.
Comfies is great. Comfies is still with us.
I will say Comfies almost turned it around for me.
Comfies is going to be the t-shirt and logo of this podcast going forward. I hope you guys are ready for that.
No, that's not going to be it. But yeah, Call of Cthulhu, I enjoyed it overall. I think once we got past the character creation, and you're right, Brian, it is easy to make a broken character. I think John did something smart and put limits on how much points we could put in to certain attributes, because without knowing, I just had a bunch of points left over, and I was like, yeah, put it all into firearms, revolvers. And I had like a 95 points in firearms and revolvers the first time around that we played. And so then John looked at that and he was just like, you know what? Let's actually bring that down instead, and you can only have a max of so much. I was like, all right, fine, that's fair. I'm not gonna shoot God in the forehead during this game. Understood. But I think right, that narrow niche focus and tone that it requires is part of the charm for it a little bit. I don't think certainly you could play it more streamlined in a different system. I can see that. Yeah.
If I may, real quick, there's actually, just on the subject of streamlined, I believe it's also published by the same group. There's a game called Trail of Cthulhu that's straight up like, this is Call of Cthulhu streamlined. Like, it's super simple. And if that's what your group wants to go for, just do that, because it works like a charm.
That's great. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I enjoy the tone of Lovecraftian horror, cosmic horror. I like the adventure that we did. Once the game was going right outside of the prep, it was pretty fun. I had a great time. It was easy to jump in and out. Easy to remember how to interact with the world. I think we had a couple of times where there were some obscure rules that we were trying to figure out. But aside from that, I mean, that's a roadblock we hit with any game, really. But yeah, I mean, if you want a streamlined version of it, follow Brian's advice. Check out Trails of Cthulhu. Is that what it was called?
I think it's called Trail of Cthulhu.
Trail of Cthulhu. Okay.
And yeah, as far as I'm aware of it, it is meant to be just, hey, you want to play Call of Cthulhu, but you don't want a million dice and you don't want to have a ton of things in a complicated sheet. Play this game.
Don't want a million dice. Who the fuck is that marketed to?
I mean, yeah, I don't know who that appeals to, but
love having a million dice. All right, let's move over now to the actual adventure we played, Mythos Inc. That was just so gosh darn spooky, y'all. What were some of your favorite moments in the adventure, John?
Yeah. So as the person running it, I really enjoyed what all you brought to the game. You guys started creating, like, I came to you and I was like, okay, I want to do Call of Cthulhu, but I want it to be Scooby-Doo. And y'all were like, all right, let's do it. And so it's fun that you guys had just improv a bunch of like backstories with each other, like some like character history. You guys did a lot of fun things. One of my favorite things was the ancestral crowbar, which I could see being on a t-shirt. Gosh, Comfies coming in clutch and turning on a light as a dog, a spotlight. How does he do? Like, I'm wondering how did he like take his teeth and like plug the plug into the wall, or is there like a switch?
He leveled up for that, right? I mean, he got more skill points just for that.
There's no leveling up.
Okay.
Yeah, we already went over that, Harold. You don't level up in Call of Cthulhu.
Damn it.
He leveled up in our hearts.
His skill turning on lights went up.
Yeah, he got a success on plugging in spotlight, so now it's rated at a 55.
That's fantastic.
Yep, there you go. So now it's that much easier. He can make 50 and above is you can make a living with this skill. So he can officially be a spotlight turner on her.
I'm gonna put Comfies on my photography website and get some more value out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think really my favorite moments were what you guys did with your characters and how you interacted with the world. I really enjoyed what you all brought to it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think the best moments from this came from the fact that you approached us with, hey, let's do a Scooby-Doo episode. Like, all right, yeah, let's do it. It'll be fun. And then we made like weird, campy 60s characters and, played up some stereotypes. I think probably my favorite moments, the one that sticks with me and will stick with me forever, is when I was trying to get into, I think it was the tool shed. And, you know, like I grab the handle, I push, and it won't open. Like, okay, I pull. Screw it. Yeah, that works. Like that was such a fun moment in the experience of just playing the adventure of like, you know what? Like whatever. Like that it fits the tone, it fits what we're doing. Let's make that happen. So that was really good. And then I also loved our just not really quite figuring out some of the clues and stuff and sort of waltzing into it at the end like, oh yeah, no, that's what it was. That's the solution. That's the mystery. We did it, gang. Like that, because again, it just fit what we had been doing so well.
Yeah, I know we had monsters and villains and a mystery to solve, but my favorite part of this whole campaign was just doing the mundane shit with you guys. Like I had so much fun just trying to find the library, driving down the road. Let's sign into the hotel. Let's divvy up the beds. And that was just the cutest thing. Like if we never figured out the mystery, if we never found the monster, if this campaign was just us like bumbling around looking for clues, that would have been enough for me. That was so much fun. And yeah, like just the way this mechanic worked. And us as a family, guys, we've gotten to such a wonderful place where we're playing such wonderful games. Like, yeah, I could just search a room with you guys all day long. And yeah, just the sense of sort of the liberty and sort of the unspoken like rules of physics of playing a Scooby-Doo adventure. Like I think we never talked about it, right? We never talked about like what are we going to do? Like how do we shove all of this into a van? Like how do we know that Comfies is going to be able to work the lights? It's just inherent. We just knew instinctually how to make this work, and it was a lot of fun.
I'm right there with Harold. The pitiful town that all these people lived in was fantastic. Everyone just lived at their businesses or in a hotel, and that was it. I thought that was really silly. I'm pretty sure Danny Howard didn't actually live at the gas station, but making that assumption was fun for me. My other favorite moment was, right, we didn't really discuss anything as far as how we would make it work. I mean, maybe a couple of the story elements, but I like the moment where we figure out it's Danny Howard and then Brian says something like, hold on, we need to do the Scooby-Doo reveal where we all say the name, and even that we like fuck it up. I think I fuck it up. That was fantastic. Comfies turning on the lights was so good. Ivan's last stand with the shotgun was a lot of fun to edit. I thought I tried to find a really cool song to hype up that moment, and I thought it came together pretty nice.
You did great, Alex.
If we could use licensed music, that's where the Doom 2016 kicks in.
Okay, my favorite part, and I'm sure this is going to be John's favorite part of this episode, is where he praises us for all our ability to remain totally serious throughout this adventure and be just the best investigators we can be. John, what did we miss?
Oh, my lord.
Oh, no.
Oh, man.
I don't like that. Sounds like a lot.
Danny Howard was innocent.
So, Danny Howard did nothing wrong. No, Danny Howard was guilty. I did forget to give you a clue at the beginning, but I was like, oh, that's fine. We can work past that. The biggest thing was this adventure was centered around the steel mill. Like, like Scooby-Doo, they go to a location, they wander around, whatever. Maybe it's the morning and then they go and they talk to other people and then they go back again to try to catch the thing. Like that was I structured it to be like a Scooby-Doo episode. So you guys get to the mill and then you don't look at half of the mill. You look at the cafeteria, you look at the grounds, like the little courtyard area, you look at the main factory and the chop shop. You ignore the junkyard, you ignore the storage area behind the junkyard. You never find the original place you were supposed to confront the villain, which was the basement, which was entrance through the back. In the headback storage lot. you missed a lot of things. So there was clues regarding I kept on mentioning cigarette butts because Danny Howard was the only person that you saw smoking through the adventure.
Did we ever get those photos developed? I would really like to see those.
Yeah, you did in the back of the van during the library research.
Oh good.
Yeah, there you go. It's in your brain somewhere.
They turned out really nice. They were Americana.
That's good to hear.
They were very artistic.
That's good to hear.
Another favorite moment.
I'm going to try to publish them.
They're going to be in dentist offices across the nation.
They'll be up on the website soon.
But yeah, the whole thing was going to be that like Danny Howard was the one who caught fire because he's smoking cigarettes and he discovered there's a whole subplot you never get to. Like it's just kind of rushed at the end where it's like, oh, the reason Danny's doing this is because there's he wants to be rich and he hates this town and he wants to leave, but he can't, so he needs money. So he discovers that the steel mill has an oil underneath it, and so he's trying to drive everyone away. But at the same time, the Cthulhu twist was that he made this deal with this raven creature, that the raven gets what it wants by driving people crazy and eating them, and then Danny gets what he wants by bringing more people into the town, giving more people and making money while also bringing more people for the raven to eat. And we never touched that. We just kind of stumbled into like, oh, here are the monsters.
Did the raven know English? How did they communicate?
It was German, Alex.
Fair enough.
I mean, it was like I don't know, Call of Cthulhu. It was like telepathic was my idea, you know. I mean, it gave you all dreams about like driving you crazy, then eating you. So
it's true. All right. Before the curtain falls on another adventure, let's go around the table one more time and talk about what did we learn during this adventure? What can we use in our next season of one shots to be not us so much?
I think the main thing we learned is that we're very, very good at our jobs. And good at investigating and good at solving mysteries.
Hell yeah, dog.
Nah, I think more seriously, we learned a lot about, what are the limits of a one shot, right? Because this was definitely, I think, more than the others we've had so far. This sort of strains at, what can you do in a single sitting, right? Can you solve an entire mystery in a single sitting? And the answer apparently is sort of, because we did, but we didn't really like solve the mystery so much as just sort of get to the end of it, which I think is fair. And I think worked, and I think it was still fine. But I think it is something, worth bearing in mind for us and for everyone at home that, when you're doing a one shot, be ambitious, but also be aware of how much you can realistically get done in a single evening or a single sitting at the table. I think it's no surprise or no coincidence, rather, that this is the first one shot we've had where we needed that fourth episode.
Personally, for me, I normally running games, I've been a lot more super research heavy, try to plan out absolutely everything. And this game, I was experimenting. I didn't plan out nearly as many things. I like all of the clues that you guys found, I just made up on the spot. Like I knew generally what I wanted it to point to. And I knew that you guys were going to go places I didn't put clues. So I just let you go wherever. And then I put clues there that I thought made sense. And that was fun. And I think there was an element of that where it's like, okay, I didn't know as many of the rules as maybe I should have. So like for me, I know I'm going to end up somewhere in the middle of my two ways where I'm not going to prepare as much as I used to, but I'm not going to wing it maybe as much as I did this adventure. I think it worked out fine, but I think I would have felt better if I had a little bit more down and like knew like, oh, this is what's going to happen here and here. Also, Scarlet Herring, and nobody chased it.
Oh,
because we knew. It's because we knew.
I didn't even think of that.
Scarlet Herring. Oh yeah, of course.
It's because we all picked up on it immediately, and we're like, you know what? That's what it is. And then we didn't have to follow it. We knew that she was innocent.
We're good investigators, John. I think buy-in was the thing I learned from this one. Again, I know the general tone of our podcast is just silly and messing around, but I think a serious game of Call of Cthulhu or Lovecraftian horror does require some sincere buy-in, right? And I think in the moments where once the action really started to pick up, there was definitely buy-in all around. But some of the smaller moments, maybe when Leslie starts freaking out about the papers and things like that, that was good buy-in. I think one of my favorite other parts that I didn't mention was the discussion between Leslie and Ivan, where they talk about, right, Leslie admits that he never really wanted to find anything, and Ivan's like, well, here it is, right? That was fantastic. I love that. So buy-in really does just up the ante as far as what what it means for your character to be part of this adventure. And I think Call of Cthulhu just innately needs that sort of attention to it, right?
Yeah, this is a role-playing game. Like, this is not for somebody who loves mechanics, who wants to, get to level 20 and be the most badass wizard to ever be. This is a game to be challenged by, to make and also to participate in. It's to put yourself in a position to sort of get struck with something from left field and to see how you deal with it. And that's very invigorating. That's very fun. And I see how it's complicated. Like, to do this in a one shot, it's almost not worth it, I hate to say, because like, you do want to invest in it. You want to craft characters. You want to like create monsters and villains that you can research and learn and know about. So if you have the space to do that, if you have that group of friends, and I think this is the type of game where you could play with like 3 people and get a lot out of it.
Wait, that's what we did.
Yeah, right, exactly. You could be just like us, and you can actually get something out of it. And that being said, I also I learned a lot about Pennsylvania. I learned a lot about the rich culture and history.
No, you didn't. You learned nothing.
An inheritance of the people of the Northeast. I have learned. I will not apologize. I've deleted all of your emails.
You are an affront to my entire people.
Eyyyy-oh, eyyyy-oh, eyyyy-oh.
Thanks for tuning in to this special episode of 2 Weeks, One Shot, a tabletop RPG variety podcast. Make sure to join us next week on Tuesday, June 22nd, for the start of our next adventure. Check the episode notes to find links to our Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and join in the conversation with hashtag TWOScast. That's TWOS cast. All right, see you soon.